Hey, welcome to Many Roads Traveled. I'm Tamara, and I'll be your virtual tour guide, I guess. Thanks for joining me on my 50,000 kilometer road trip from Paris to Cape Town. And welcome to episode 17, I believe. So, on this episode, we will be talking about my time in Eritrea. And I was actually there when it was the newest country in the world, which was very cool. So Eritrea is a little country in the Horn of Africa, which borders with Sudan, Djibouti, and Ethiopia. So, picking up where we left off in the last episode, if you haven't heard that, you might want to go back and come along on the whole trip if you like. So, it's day 111, and after 2 days of traveling to get to Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, on a pretty bad bus, and we had to basically pull over at nighttime because there's no street lights and Africa's pitch black at night. So yeah, just basically some dirt road in the middle of nowhere and slept beside the bus with all the other travelers, like all the other local people on the bus. So that was fun. I'm traveling at the time with my friend Casey, who I left Canada with, and we'd also met an American couple in Khartoum. So we traveled together from Khartoum to Asmara. And they were called Aaron and Matt. I really liked Aaron. Matt was a pain in the ass. So there you go. Rolled up to Asmara, and Asmara is a beautiful little city. It's an old, Eritrea is an old or an ex-Italian colony, but all the buildings are very Italian influenced, and there's loads of beautiful big trees and benches, and there's a great bar scene and cafe scene. So I actually felt like I was in Italy, like some small village in Italy. It was very odd, especially after spending almost a month in Sudan, the Sahara Desert pretty much, and very, very hot. And that's another thing. Eritrea is elevated, so it had a great temperatures between 25, 28 Celsius, and it got cooler at night, so great for sleeping, which was also hard to do in Sudan. I think in Khartoum, the hottest we got was 57 or 59 degrees Celsius with humidity. It was ridiculous. With not even a fan in our room, let alone air conditioning, brutal to sleep. Eritrea also, like I said, it was the newest country in the world. They'd finally got their independence from Ethiopia, which they've been fighting for 30 years, I believe. Peace was declared in 91, and then April 91, and then independence was May 93, which was when I was there. So a long time ago, traveling without cell phones or the internet. A lot different, basically, or ATMs, any of that jazz. And also, the Eritrean army was made up a third of women, because we kick ass, I guess. But anyways, war's no good anywhere. Brutal. So once we got to Asmara, Casey and I found this lovely hotel called the Victoria Hotel. And we got this huge room. I honestly felt like I was in the presidential suite. Like I said, accommodation in Sudan was not good at all. Little cots in a room. If I got in a room, like I said, the night before I was sleeping on the road. So this was awesome. It was like two big double beds and a balcony, and we even had an attached bathroom. I think that was the first time we had that in maybe on the whole trip, actually. By this point, it was day 111, so we've been on the road for almost 4 months. And there's also a sink in there and tables and chairs. Honestly, it was a luxury. It was $5 a night, like for the room. It was awesome. At the time, it was 7.5 bira to $1. Now, bira doesn't even exist, so it's now called Nafka. It's about 15 Nafka to $1. So once we got settled, we walked around town, and we were a bit of a spectacle because there wasn't a lot of Westerners there, and found dinner. And again, it was the Italian influence was still there. So we had a big platter of pasta and garlic bread and red wine. Just great. Again, food not good in Sudan for a whole month. So it was like we were back in Italy. And they also had beer as well as wine, which is great because we've been in a lot of Muslim countries, so Eritrea was not Muslim country at all. So didn't have to worry too much about what I was wearing as well. and alcohol. Yeah, happy days. I was so happy. Plus, it was so cheap. Like our spaghetti dinner cost about $2, I think. So I knew I was gonna love Eritrea pretty much right off the bat. So yeah, after dinner we basically just crashed because exhausted from 2 days traveling before. So the next morning we got up, had breakfast, and then yeah, walked around town. And we met Aaron and Matt for dinner. Had some aubergine parmesan or eggplant parmigiana and a couple bottles of red wine. It was just awesome. It was all the hard traveling and hard times in Sudan seemed to kind of evaporate in Eritrea. So the next day, because there was quite a lot of journalists there as well, so that was probably the most Western people we'd seen for quite a while as well. And we found out that the Kenny Neal's band was putting on a concert that night, and they're from Louisiana. So they were paid by the US government to put on a concert to celebrate independence. So, like I said, like the vibe in Eritrea was awesome in Asmara. Like people were so happy that the war was finally over, after 30 years and they got their independence. And yeah, it was just party. So we decided, well, we got to go to the concert, of course. And so we went later on, and it was only like $1.50 to get in, and beers were only 30 cents. It's like, this is awesome. Kenny Neal's, who's kind of like a country blues band. And yeah, he rocked it out. There was loads of people there just partying and dancing, and I managed to get quite near the front and having an awesome time. And then Kenny Neal's gets out and comes into the audience and then just stands right next to me. And so of course I was accompanying him on my air guitar, and we rocked it out. But yeah, I felt like I was back home, basically. It was just a great experience, just being around that many people that are so happy and like properly partying, because we hadn't done really any of that pretty much since maybe Turkey. So it's been a while. So the next morning we were up early, around 6ish, because we wanted to get a bus to Massawa, which is on the Red Sea coast. So it was about, yeah, we left in the morning, and it only cost us just over $1 for our ticket. It took 5 hours to get there, but it was a beautiful drive because you come from the mountains where Asmara is, and it's so green and lush, and you see all these ravines, and then you kind of, slowly descend until you get to the coast. So and it was a good bus too. So that was, again, novelty, great, beautiful drive. The bus wasn't as ram-packed as we're used to, so that was great too. So as we're pulling into Massawa, you see every building, even though they still had that Italian colonial look, they'd all been bombed. I mean, some partially destroyed, some completely destroyed. The roads just had huge potholes in them. I mean, it's so sad. Like, this is what war does, not let alone the human costs, but, to their cities as well, just pretty much destroyed in a way. So that was pretty sad. So we got into Massawa and decided to have lunch before we hit to the beach, because the beach was about 10 kilometers. So we did that, and then Massawa, like I said, there was not a lot in Massawa at the time. So after lunch, we just got a taxi to the beach. The beach was lovely. I mean, and there was quite a few resorts on the beach, but I guess only one or two were open. I don't know, I guess they're all partying in Asmara. Not many tourist travelers went to Eritrea back in 1993, that's for sure. So Casey and I basically had the beach to ourselves. It's great. And you're right on the Red Sea, and so we kind of just dumped our stuff. We set up my tent. So we only brought our day bags. We left our big bags in our hotel in Asmara. And then we just went for a swim. It's lush, man. It felt like a bath, which was great because showers were a novelty on this trip, let alone hot showers. So this was the biggest bath I've ever had. It was great. So yeah, after spending the afternoon on the beach, we headed to one of the resorts to grab dinner. We had a really lovely fish dinner. It wasn't too pricey. There was, like I said, no one really at the resorts either. So, we kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, but people were super lovely, really, really nice, helpful. Very happy to see, any kind of tourism there. So that was cool. So the next morning, didn't get much sleep because it was so hot in the tent, and Casey didn't bring his tent. So we're both in my little tent, and it was just a bit too claustrophobic and just really hot. So that kind of sucked. So I decided to get up, like I got up about 6:30 morning and decided to go pretty much skinny dipping. I did have my underwear on. Didn't want to go too crazy. But yeah, topless anyways. And it was awesome. Like I said, no one's on the beach. So yeah, very free. I think the first time I'd ever gone topless swimming, like in the sea kind of thing. So that was really nice. So I spent an hour or so out there and then came back, put my bathing suit on. Casey was up. Then we just went to the resort for something to eat, like for breakfast, and we ended up just hanging out there on their, loungers and things like that. So they didn't care. And we were spending money at the resort, so that was okay. I actually felt like I was on holiday for one of the first times after 4 months. So it was a very lovely, relaxing day and much needed. So when we got back to our tent, shortly after, these two guys came up to us who said they were official tourist police or something, I don't know. And they said that it was illegal to camp on the beach, so we had to, leave the beach or not sleep there anyways. But I managed to, charm my way in there and just like, well, listen, we're leaving tomorrow. We camped last night, and they're like, oh, okay, well, just move your tent closer to the one of the resort's entrance because we can keep an eye on you so nothing happens to you, kind of thing. We're like, okay, fine. It's just for our safety, I guess, although I didn't feel any problems in Eritrea at all. And the next morning we just got up early and hitched a ride back into Massawa, into town, and then just got a bus back to Asmara and back to our lovely Victoria hotel room and had our last night in Asmara. Again, just pigged out on Italian food, and they had gelatos too. So, because I knew I wouldn't get this for a while. So yeah, that was my a few days in Asmara and Massawa. So to hear about whether step 5 gets complete in our plan into how to get overland into Ethiopia, because it was illegal at the time to cross land by land. So we kind of slightly forged some. Well, I didn't forge a visa, just... Anyway, you have to tune in to next Thursday to hear all about that. Okay, before we go, it's time for Tam's top tips for Eritrea. So, first of all, Eritrea at this point was my favorite country in Africa. I mean, we only been to Egypt, Sudan, and Eritrea, so those were my 3. And also, we were there in such an amazing time, great vibes, happy people. But also just the food and the wine and beer, and it was so cheap as well. So all in all, and I just liked it. Like I said, I felt more like I was in Italy than Africa. So I don't know, maybe that's why. But I really, really did like it. And also the country's beautiful as well. So, however, which I just found out recently, which breaks my heart, the first president when I was there, 94 or 93, he's called Afewerki. He is basically a complete dickhead. He's like a dictator. And this will be in 2021, his 27th year in power. And it's just, it's brutal. He leads a regime basically. So there's no legislature. There's no independent civil society. There's no media outlets. There's no independent judiciaries. Most religions are banned, and all Eritreans have to serve in the National Guard at 18 for at least 2 years, but many of them have been there for 10 years or more, and they're basically then become forced laborers in all these government, private and public work projects. So 12% of the population have fled in the last almost 30 years. There's absolutely no human rights. They are imprisoned and tortured at the president's will just for expressing how they feel about him, like just talking, not even doing anything else. So that's just so heartbreaking. From being there when they're independent and so happy and partying, like the whole country was partying and happy and just so glad that 30-year war was over, they've now gone into this disgusting regime, I guess. It's just, it's so sad. Very, very heartbreaking. And also, I didn't even know that until I researching for this episode. So, makes me very, very sad. My heart goes out to them. It's kind of like North Korea in Africa, which is so not African. Like, anyway, so you can go. So to get your visa, you have to get a visa before you leave at one of the Eritrean consulates or embassies in your country. If you don't have one, then you can possibly get one at the border, a land border, so Kenya or Ethiopia, Sudan, or Djibouti. But you also have to have a letter from a government, like an approved government travel agency, Eritrean government, of course, because it takes the money. And it costs $70 or 70 USA for your train visa. And you can basically only go Asmara, Massawa, and Karen, which I did go, like, I could go anywhere in Eritrea at the time, but those are the 3 places that I spent time at. I would recommend it. And Eritrea is known as one of the safest countries in Africa because obviously if they do anything to a tourist, they'll just be shot and killed, I imagine, or imprisoned at least. Like, it's brutal. But the people, like I said, I imagine the people are still nice and lovely. Just the government, well, this president basically is just the cruel, cruel man, basically. So you do have to get a permit from the Ministry of Tourism for each place you want to go to in Eritrea. And of course, you have to get that from the government tour agency. And you have to carry those permits with you at every time. So say that you did want to go to Asmara and Karen and Massawa, you'd have to get a permit for each one of those places and carry them with you. The land borders are closed, so you can only fly in to, I think, just fly into Asmara, which is the capital. There's no ATMs, so same as when I was there. And the internet's very slow. Well, they didn't have internet at all back then. So yeah, the black market is strictly illegal. So don't do that. Use the banks. Like I said, it's 15 Nafka to $1 US. And now you're looking at about $1.25 for a beer, and the spaghetti dinner would be about $7 and a pizza $15. So it's all a lot more expensive than when I was there. Beer's still pretty cheap, I guess. Okay, so tip 2, well, coffee. If you like coffee, Eritrea apparently has some of the best coffee in the world. And there are loads of cafes and restaurants and bars that are still there, or probably a lot more than when I was there. And they do speak really good English as well, so you won't have a problem with that. Number 3, now obviously I don't recommend going to countries that are run by a dictator, but because, how I'm doing my vlog, I was there. And it's just such a shame because, like I said, it's a beautiful country, great people, great food, beautiful landscapes, great temperature too in Asmara. But if you did want to go, you can also organize a government-approved tour, but you're looking at between $3,000 and $5,000 per person per week. There's really no hostels or Airbnbs there. That's illegal, of course. He doesn't want anyone to make money, basically, just the government, right? So you're looking around $60 a night for hotel accommodation. Yeah, it kind of sucks. And then my tip for solo female travelers is, yeah, it's very chilled. You're going to have no problem there except having to deal with that regime, I guess, like in the back of your head. Obviously, don't say anything negative about the president because who you're talking to, they could get arrested, not you. So just keep your opinions to yourself. But you can talk to them. Like I said, they speak really good English. So yeah, just talk to them about anything but the president and the government. You'll be okay. Okay, so that is a wrap for this episode. So we'll see you next week to find out if we got into Ethiopia and how it went over there on our next leg of the journey. Okay, so until then, take care. Safe travels, one road at a time.